This meeting is being recorded. Jai Baba, everybody. Welcome to another Thursday night of Lord Meher book reading. I'm your Mona from Mumbai, India, and we have Marvin and Rosalie and Ralph and Mahu and Marlon and a few others who will be joining us today for this book reading. We normally read the book, and after that, we have a small chat. You're welcome to join us from wherever in the world you are. Before we start today, we will just close our eyes for a second. Connect to Baba and take Baba's name 3 times. Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba, and be in silence again. This book is about his journey, and today we are going to read from uh, volume 5 in the actual book, page number 156, sorry, 1567, and on the online version, it is 1382. Yeah, thank you, Marvin. So, as we entered the room, Baba sprang up with the agility, power, and grace that characterize all his movements and quickly came forward. He then
Let me just
beckoned
say
for.
something, Mona. This
Sure.
is Mary. This is Mary Backett talking about her first meeting with Baba.
Yeah. Thank you. Shall I continue? So, as we entered the room, Baba sprang up with the agility, power, and grace that characterize all his movements and quickly came forward. He then beckoned for me to sit beside him and took my hand with such a gentle touch. Immediately, I felt a great upliftment of consciousness, such as I had never experienced before with anyone. I had been searching and reading deeply for many years and knew that I had now found the master and that the long search was over. Baba gave me more, far more in the space of 3 minutes than I had gained in 30 years of earnest seeking or thorough through others. Because I experienced the tangible, definite gift of grace and divine love that he bestowed, whereas others could only talk about it. I knew who Baba was. Will and Mary became regular visitors at Russell Road and also saw Baba at Margaret Kraskey's apartment, where Baba went for tea one evening. The Backetts became Baba's deeply devoted disciples from then forward onward, and Baba would lovingly refer to them as Wilmar and later as his archangels. Kitty was occupied from morning to evening with the arrangements for Baba's stay, overseeing the cooking and the many other details involved. Baba would eat alone in his room upstairs. Then, coming downstairs, he would sit by the fireplace and watch the others eat together. Adi Jr., Adi Sr., and Behram's musical performances were a daily affair. And in between the songs, Baba would explain different spiritual matters to the devotees. Kitty's parents, John and Helena, had vacated the house, so there would be room for Baba. and the six men Mandali. And Helena's friend, Mrs. Courier, was asked to be present to act as a chaperone. Although Kitty's parents were not staying in the house, both had the opportunity to see Baba during his visit. Helena once confessed to Baba that she felt wicked as she occasionally enjoyed a game of cards and played for money. Baba silently laughed and gestured, I like you. You're so honest, and indicated to her that she could go on playing cards if she liked. Helena was fortunate to spend this time with Baba as she died the following September. Katie's father, John, would talk to Baba about the cricket and ping pong. At mention of ping pong, the group arranged for a table, and Baba played with them on occasion, usually without keeping score. At other times, they simply sat in silence, as Kim recalled. I can remember one or two occasions where Baba was seated and we were all sitting around him in perfect silence. There was such a flow of love. It was almost as if the air was vibrating. You could almost touch it. Wonderful, wonderful times. Age noted, it is beyond words to describe the beloved's wine. Only the hearts and the imbibers know it. The, the birds drank and drank this wine, and their song became full of sweetness. Many came this time to see Baba and had the opportunity to listen to the echo of his song. On Friday, 15th April 1932, Paramount Film Studio sent two cars to bring Baba and his group to Wel- Wellston to see the film that was taken of him dictating from the alphabet board and being read out uh, by Purdom. Other companies expressed interest in filming Baba, but he did not agree to it. After watching the newsreel, Baba sent word to the manager that he was pleased with the results. When they were about to leave, the manager approached Baba and said, it would have been good if Mahatma Gandhi was here with you in the film. But Gandhi did not want himself filmed when he was in England. He is averse to all that is modern. Baba replied to the man, modern or ancient, there is always one infinite existence prevailing everywhere in the arts, in science, in beauty, in nature, in every phase of life. Baba and the group then visited London Zoo for half an hour and the British Museum also. But for just 15 minutes while in London, Baba also visited Kew Gardens for a picnic lunch, rode on the London subways, and went to plays or films in the evenings. Lunch of Indian food was arranged that day at the Anglo Ceylon restaurant at 47 Gerrard Street. Baba also visited the American consulate on the 15th, where a visa was issued for his trip to America. Sorry. Lunch of Indian food was arranged that day at the Anglo Ceylon restaurant at 47 Gerrard Street. Baba visited, sorry, I'm repeating that again. I think you scrolled up. Baba also visited the American consulate on the 15th, where a visa was issued for his trip to America. Baba and the group stayed at Kim and Desmond Tolhert's house at 15 Compane Gardens, Hampstead in the evening. Baba was to stay overnight at the Tolhert's house with Zila, Kitty, Adi Jr., and another of the Mandali. Since Kim did not know how to cook Indian food, she asked Krishnaveer, the proprietor of Kohinoor restaurant, to supply food for Baba and the Mandali. Though she woke up at 5 a.m. to make special strong tea for Baba, which he enjoyed, along with a cheese that had traces of mustard. We have a map of England from 1932 where you see London, Dover, Southampton, Combe Mountain, Devonshire, and the English Channel. Detailed plans have been arranged for Baba's stay at Devonshire Retreat. Murdith came to see Baba on Saturday, 16th April 1932, at 6 o'clock in the morning, returning to Devonshire at 11 o'clock. Adi Jr., Bhairam, Chanji, Kaka, and Ghani was sent ahead to Devonshire that afternoon at 3. Okay, I can't see Mahu. Other than I asked her to read. I'll continue. In the evening, Baba went to see a comic film, A Night Like This, featuring Ralph Lynn. Baba left for the retreat for the next day at 6:30 in the morning, accompanied by Adi Senior, Kitty, Zila, Kim, Delia, and Margaret. Before the other Mandali departed, Baba had ordered them to put up with whatever Murdith said or did, and warned them not to create a disturbance on any account. The Mandli no sooner had set foot in the Devonshire house when they eyed a notice posted on the wall of a planned schedule for Baba, themselves, and the others. Baba's program was chalked out from 6 a.m. to late in the night, and each of the Mandali was ordered to meditate in his room. For the other visitors, a regimen of silence and meditation had been drawn up. Much to their discomfort, according to Baba's wish, the Mandali kept their opinions to themselves and began following Murdith's program. When the Mandali settled in, Murdith instructed them not to come with him when he went to receive Baba, but to keep at a distance. Reporters and photographers were waiting at the retreat for Baba's arrival, and Mordith did not want any one other than himself to be given prominence, trying to impress others that even Meher Baba's Eastern disciples were under his instructions. But when Murdith was occupied in planning all this, Baba appeared at 3:20 p.m., much earlier than expected, thus ruining Murdith's plans. Minta received Baba, and Kenneth Ross enthusiastically played his bagpipes to welcome the avatar of the age. Asked if Baba would give any message on his arrival in Devonshire, Baba told the reporters, dictating from his alphabet board, "Coming to the retreat is like coming home. Your spirituality is made practical. I find the atmosphere and training here result in ideas being realized. Head and heart must go together. Physical, mental, and spiritual equilibrium must be achieved to ensure permanent results. For the present crisis to pass away and the matters to become normal again, the West must understand the importance of spiritual development and must realize divinity in each phase of life, in art, science, and the daily routine. That infinite consciousness must be expanded. Then only can peace, in the real sense of the word, then only can be. I'm going to repeat this. That infinite consciousness must be expanded, then only there can be peace in the real sense of the word. But if, as at present, only the material aspects continue to be stressed, then there will be still greater discord, which will cause untold suffering. I think this is such a beautiful message. We can relate to this and um, incorporate this in our lives. It just makes so much sense. Some of the others were sitting quietly in the hall, observing silence. Baba suddenly entered the hall and began pacing back and forth, breaking up the boredom of those assembled there. Their hearts were gladdened by the breeze of love that swept into the room, and their eyes teared up with joy as the Life Combe Chronicle reported. After being photographed on the terrace, the whole party went indoors, many devotees of the sect rushing to Baba and holding his hands. He was obviously delighted at the magnanimity of the welcome accorded him, for he smiled and clasped at all by hand. His long black tresses reached his shoulders, streamed in the northeasterly wind. He has a most impressive, kindly, and cultured visage. His looks would command in anyone except the ignorant more than a little respect. Footnote.
It's not important. Keep going.
Okay. Um, Mahu, would you like to read from here? One thing that, yeah.
Unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Um, as from here, as
One thing that struck our
Okay.
representative
Sure.
was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
obvious. I'll just read that line and then you can start. One thing that struck our representative was the obvious sincerity and kindness of all the people staying in the retreat. You can start from here. Baba directed Kitty to return to London. Yeah.
Baba directed Kitty to return to London with Zila and come back to East Chalacum the following evening. Quentin and Mabel arrived the next day also, and Howell was another visitor. The weather in England at this time of year was still quite cold. Gani was so cold and uncomfortable that he did not change his clothes for 8 days and slept fully dressed with his shoes on. He told Baba, "My head feels like a refrigerator." Meredith had told the Mandali to stay in their rooms meditating, but Ghani locked the door from inside and indulged in his favorite pastime, sleeping. On the sly, Ghani was allowed to narrate incidents of Baba's childhood and early days to Kitty and the other sincere lovers, since he and Baba had attended school together as boys, and he was one of the master's earliest followers. Baba did not insist on the English group being vegetarian, and he had informed the Kimco group that they were exempt from the daily hour of meditation, during which time Meredith had given strict orders for silence in the house and on the premises. One day, Baba came to sit with them during this hour and casually pulled a book from the shelf, showing them the title. It was All Quiet on the Western Front, and all burst out laughing. Footnote.
All Quiet on the Western Front is a novel by Eric Remarque, a German veteran of World War I, about the horrors of that war and also the deep detachment from German civilian life felt by many men returning from the front.
After another time, Baba came upstairs to Kimko's room to be with them during the meditation hour. He looked out the open window and saw Quentin dutifully meditating outside. Page 1387. Baba mischievously picked up a few sugar cubes and threw one after the other at Quentin's back with amazing accuracy. Quentin was incensed by this prank until he saw Baba and the others laughing from the window. He too laughed and joined them for the real meditation on the divine beloved in physical form. As mentioned, the weather was unseasonably cold at Combe Martin, and Meredith had taken no steps to prevent its rigors from being felt. On the contrary, Baba was again made to stand on the hill in the bitter cold, dressed only in his sadra while being photographed. Yet he was enjoying Meredith's performance. But on Monday, 18 April 1932, Baba remarked to the Mandali, quote, I do not like the weather here at all. I am bored and fed up. It is a continual bondage, and there is no freedom. Meetings and interviews are going on the whole day, and it is bitter cold. Anyhow, we have to carry on. I must have 9 days of complete holiday before I speak. My first words will be, I am Krishna, I am Buddha, I am Christ. Since it was so cold in England, going to Switzerland was suggested, as it was warmer there. Ken threatened Baba, if you don't take me with you, I will commit suicide. I place you above all. Baba admonished her in front of everyone, quote, if that is so, then carry out my wishes fully. Do not question me or suggest anything to me. Although I am the master, I am following Meredith's behests, and if you do that, too, what harm is there? Meredith has not even allotted time for me to communicate with the Mandali. Still, I go to meet with them at 5 in the morning so that I am ready by 6 for Meredith's program. In the evenings, Meredith would pompously read out his poems to Baba and the group. I am like the dust at the master's feet. Minta and her friend Ayala could not hold back their giggles. Minta covered her face and began to chuckle. Meredith thought she was weeping and said, cry if you will, child. Cry if you will, child. cry, if you will. Throughout Baba's stay, Meredith proudly ordered about the Mandali, who acted as if they were obediently obeying him. Though this show was a headache to Baba, he tolerated it, and for the sake of his work, and even criticized Chanji's service in comparison to Meredith's. Privately, he expressed his dissatisfaction with Meredith's insisting on observing the usual routine of the retreat, even while Baba was physically present. Quote, the freedom to do my work in my own way is lost, Baba explained. Baba threatened to cancel his trip to America unless Meredith stopped suggesting things and agreed to obey Baba implicitly, to which Meredith agreed. But on Thursday, 21st April 1932, Meredith told Baba in a demanding tone, I want God realization, but I need money too. Baba just smiled and made no comment. Baba was tolerating Meredith's behavior for the sake of some of his lovers there. During Baba's first visit to England, many had been snared in the master's net. But thereafter, a few new ones had heard of Baba through Meredith and fallen under his influence. Baba had gone again to Devonshire to contact them. Unknown at the time, this was to be Baba's last visit to the East Chalakam retreat. He never set foot there again. At 2 p.m. on the 22nd, Baba went for a walk to the beach after lunch. Pointing to the ocean, Baba remarked to the group present, I am like the ocean you see before you, always ready to receive anything, good or bad, or anyone, healthy or sick, saint or sinner. I can absorb anything and everything, so dedicate everything to me. All your actions, good or bad, all your thoughts, and all and everything. Lay them at my feet and be free. I am like the sunshine which falls evenly on all objects. But if a person holds an umbrella over his head, he does not benefit from the sun's rays. The umbrella prevents the sun from shining on him. Your sanskaras can be compared to the umbrella which prevents you from receiving rays of light from the Guru. You have to close this sanskara umbrella in order to receive the light from the Master. Only then will you tangibly acquire the light. To do this, only think of me and keep me in your thoughts. The umbrella or sanskaras will be gradually closed as a result of my nazar, which is glance or breaths. After a week's stay, Baba left Devonshire at 6:30 in the morning on Sunday, 24th April 1932. Baba arrived in London accompanied by Adi Senior, Minta, Kim, Mabel, Margaret, and Kitty, and stayed at the Davies house. The other Mandali, who had left Devonshire the day before, stayed at Stephanie Haggard's home. All the birds flew back to find refuge in Baba, including a woman named Phyllis, who had met Baba at Devonshire the previous year. Baba sent a telegram to Herbert Davy in China on 25th April. Quote, "Great work has been done here, greater ahead in America." Tom Sharpley's mother came to see Baba on the 26th. Baba remarked that she was a very fortunate soul and revealed, 2,000 years ago, she had sheltered Jesus in her home for 2 days. That evening, Margaret, Mabel, Quentin, and others enacted a humorous play for Baba's enjoyment. Baba also went to see Chinatown that same night in a hired Pullman bus, accompanied by a group of 20. But they did not stay long. They had tea in a Chinese restaurant and then returned. Perhaps Baba wished to contact them in that part of London. Chanji speculated in his diary. On 27 April, Baba entertained for Lugano, Switzerland, at 11 a.m. with the six mandali being Adi Jr., Behram, Chanji, Ghani, Kaka, Adi Sr., Kitty, Minta, Kim, and Delia. Arriving in Paris at 6:15 that evening, they went to see the Eiffel Tower and then returned to the railway station.
Okay, thank you, Maho. I think we should have another reader, please.
Rosalie, would you like to read?
Yes, I read. Where are we? I was looking at the book.
For some time.
For some time, Minta and Kim both had wanted to be the master's personal attendant. This gave rise to strife between them, and though Baba had allotted separate duties to each, their jealousy did not subside. Their natures, too, seemed to be at odds. Kim's amusing chatter was entertaining to Baba, whereas Minta would often express her love emotionally by kissing and embracing Baba. Finally, all this inner turmoil resulted in a loud fight at the Paris railway station, and Baba had to calm them. They each wished the other would not meddle in any of Baba's work. Finding Kim doing Baba's personal work and herself excluded from it, Minta took it so badly, she quietly went up to the third floor of the train station, determined to jump out the window. None of the persons present knew this, but the all-knowing one sent Adi Sr. to find her. Adi reached the third story and caught her just as she was about to commit suicide. He took Minta to Baba, who pacified her and explained to her as she wept. Spiritual jealousy leads to advancement, while material jealousy leads to ruination and hatred. Always remember, the impressions of the beloved, whether in worldly love or divine love, have their effect on you. If you love A, his impressions will attach to your mind without your knowing it. And if you become jealous of someone else, the impressions of both will affect you. That is, if Kim loves me, my impressions, which are divine, will affect her. And if you are jealous of her, then my infinite impressions plus hers of love for me will both affect you. Therefore, jealousy in physical love is not good, while jealousy in spiritual love is good. Where there is love, there is jealousy. One automatically follows the other. There is no need to create it. For example, when you love me, you want to possess me all the while. If I go away from you to another place or to some other lover, you suffer. Another important point is that those who love me suffer with me. There is no question about it. They can unload a tiny bit of my sufferings through their love. It is not that I want you to suffer, but when you love me, you do suffer. And this automatically lessens my suffering. Peter loved Jesus very much, but every morning Jesus would kiss John, and Peter would become jealous of John. Baba concluded, on a mountain one day, I will explain who I am and how I created the universe. It was a different thing in India. Now I will make both East and West meet. Minta responded, your load of suffering is going to be much less, as so many will love you in America. Baba replied, you have no idea of my suffering, which is infinite. Now there will be no rest for me like this. It will be work, immense work, once I begin sweet speaking.
Footnote about the difference between Baba's indulgent treatment of the Westerners in the early years versus how he behaved with the Mandali. Adi Sr. once commented, we were amazed at the restraint with which Baba related to the Westerners. Baba was particularly gentle. All the kicks were received by the Mandali, and all the kisses were received by the Westerners.
On the train to Lugano, Baba would cover his face and do his inner work. Kim lay practically the whole night with her head on Baba's feet. In a bliss which is indescribable, she later related. They arrived in Lugano at 11:30 a.m. on Monday, 28th April 1932, and stayed at the Grand Eden Hotel. That evening, they went up one of the surrounding hills in a small train and admired the view of the town and lake. They had tea and hot chocolate at a lovely small restaurant where Baba got up and danced to music being played on a mandolin and another instrument, perhaps a fiddle, by a man and a woman. At night, there was Indian music by the boys, the Mandali. The next day, Baba went for an hour's trip by boat on Lake Lugano with the group. They went by car to a spot nearby where the Locarno Peace Treaty had been signed. From there to a beautiful sanctuary, the Madonna del Sasso Church, built on a hillside above the town. Baba remained seated there for 10 to 15 minutes. There were terracotta sculpture groups of Jesus and the disciples, and a large crucifix was over the altar at the front of the church. Baba explained, it is I who is on the crucifix. And for this reason, I did not remove my hat when entering the church. Baba then explained about the different characteristics of Jesus's apostles and remarked about Mary Magdalene's repentance and love for Jesus. While looking at the figures depicted at the Last Supper, Baba commented, "I loved John intensely. I remember John and Judas more often, though I had great love for Peter too. There are many things about Jesus and his circle that are not yet known to people. As in books such as the Bible, so many changes have been made. I will explain later on. When I break my silence, clothed in the simple sadra, which I wear in India, people will see me as Jesus. I am the self-same Christ who was nailed on the cross. For the welfare of others, I undergo terrible suffering, and I suffer infinitely. I am daily being crucified as I suffer for the whole world. I am being crucified every moment, even now. I remember a humorous incident in the life of Jesus. A very stout man tried to kick Jesus when he was carrying the cross, but he was so fat that while trying to kick Jesus, he fell down. I remember it well. When I, as Jesus, ordered a pit to be dug to bury a member of my circle, Peter completed the work with his fingers, thereby injuring them badly, as to the point that one finger was fractured and the flesh lacerated. But the very next day, it was healed by my simply blowing on it. As they left the church, they saw an old man with a white beard sitting on a bench. He was blind and begging. Baba sat down beside him and took his hand. He motioned to certain ones to give the old man some money, remarking, "He is a good soul. I know him well." They returned to Lugano at 7 p.m. after stopping at a restaurant for tea and cakes. They went to a film that night. At the hotel, Baba's meals were served in his room. Adi Sr. was occupying the room next to Baba's and ate with him. Adi related, "In Switzerland, we stayed at Lugano. Lovely lakes and hotels. I stayed next to Baba's room. The other Mandali were in another room. Baba's food and my food were served in his room. When Baba decided to take his food, he asked me to sit down and take mine, but he never allowed me to finish. The moment I sat down to take it, on some pretext, Baba would ask me to get up and bring something, water or soda water or Vichy water or whatever. I would bring it and Baba would say, all right, sit down, take your food." Again, as I was just putting a morsel in my mouth, he would say, "I have finished eating, wash my hands." So I would get up and wash his hands. "Sit down and take your food," he would say. Then as soon as I would do so, he would say, "Bring me a napkin to wipe my hands." I got up and brought the napkin. "Sit down and take your food," he said. I said, "Yes, Baba, I am." Then he said, bring me a toothpick. And after the toothpick, he sent me downstairs for a newspaper. I honestly felt like jumping into the lake. I felt completely exhausted mentally because he asked me to do two things at one and the same time: eat and not eat, bark and not bark, do and do not do.
Footnote. Now, this comes from The Awakener, volume 13, number 1 and 2. All right, thanks, Rosalie. Oh, why don't we get another reader, Mona?
Alan, would you like to read?
Not
Okay.
right now. Thank you.
All
for the
right. Thank
opportunity
you.
another
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Ralph, are you there? Marvin, would you like to read, my friend?
Sure. Margaret Crass arrived on the 30th and joined the group. That afternoon, they went up to Mount Bree by funicular, where they had tea. Baba had only biscuits and water with lemon juice. On a small plateau, they played a game of gilli danda, which Baba enjoyed. They went for a drive the next afternoon also, although it was raining, and to the cinema in the evening. Kitty had shouldered all the responsibility for the visit to Switzerland at her own expense. So during this trip, she was minutely supervising every detail of the arrangements for food, travel, and lodging for Baba and the Mandali, and was thus engaged from morning to night. She was doing her best to please Baba and labored sincerely in Baba's service. In spite of this, on Sunday, May 1st, 1932, Baba pointed to Kitty and spelled out to the others present: Jean Co., the New York devotees, loved me more than Kimco because Kimco left me when I was sitting here alone yesterday to go out for a walk. Quite hurt, Kitty could not prevent her tears. Baba then consoled her. Why are you crying? It was a joke. Here in Lugano, no sun is to be seen. The rain continues to fall, and the weather on the whole is depressing. I don't like it, but Kitty's love has made me remain here. Otherwise, I would not have stayed here for 1 hour under these circumstances. In this unfavorable climate, your love is everything to me. I know how all of you love me, and I love you for that. But to let such arrows fly is also part of my work, which is for your own good. By such taunts and prickings, I create more love within you, and you should not mind or feel pained by it. At the hotel, a ping pong table was procured by Kitty, and Baba played several spirited games with Ghani. Afterward, they listened to phonograph records. Baba liked the rumbas and asked Margaret to improvise dances on the spot in front of some of the locals. Kim, a trained opera singer, sang a few Negro spirituals. In the evenings, usually they would go to a movie or other show, and they once saw a group of Spanish dancers whom Baba especially enjoyed watching. They went to another movie that night. The next day, May 2nd, Baba explained to them, the path of love is not strewn with roses. It is full of thorns, and on entering it, kissing the thorns creates misery. But it is extremely necessary. If you have boils, a surgeon cuts them open, giving you pain. But this pain is for your own good. And for that, the doctor is unmindful of your suffering. I do the same. I want you all to be eternally happy. I am working in my own way for that end. My work creates this suffering and jealousy, but I never expected that my Kimco would not understand this. Now that I see the situation, I will not work as I do because you do not understand. The group replied, but we understand it, Baba, and we want you to have your wish. We want you to keep your pleasure and not ours. Hearing this, Baba motioned for all to leave except Minta, and he took great pains to explain all this over again to her. She and Kim were still envious of one another, as they both wanted to do Baba's personal work, such as washing his clothes, cleaning his room, and combing his hair. Baba called the others back, remarking, I am testing each year in turn for future work. I am watching how you take it when called upon by the master to suffer. To Kitty, he remarked, you have stood the test well. The weather in Lugano had been dreary, and the sun had not been seen for days. Baba observed, I seem to bring bad weather with me. Maya is doing her best to prevent me from enjoying my rest. But I will turn the key and make the sun shine for at least one day. To get some relief from Lugano's weather, Kitty arranged for a boat trip to Mount Generoso. They left the hotel at 9 the following morning, Tuesday, 3rd May, 1932. The majestic scenery of the mountains and lake was beautiful. On the boat, an elderly Swiss laborer sat opposite Baba for almost an hour and left the boat when it stopped at a small harbor. As he stepped off the boat, he turned and smiled at Baba. Baba later asked if they had noticed anything unusual about the man, but since they had not, he explained, he was my agent. I have come here for complete rest, and in order to do that, I must temporarily hand over the work to someone else. This morning, I have done that with this man. I had to raise him from between the second and third plane to between the fourth and fifth so that he could take on the work I am giving him. The transfer of my work must take place either in a thick jungle or on a high mountain, on water, or in a crowd. That is why he smiled, looked at me, and went off. You should have noticed how he answered with my taps with his stick on the boat, by giving properly timed taps with his stick in reply to mine. Baba had borrowed Ghani's walking stick to demonstrate this. Although the man was not looking at Baba, he successfully copied Baba's taps exactly 3 different times. Baba had also sent one of them to give the man some bread and butter, which he ate. This agent of mine is married, but none of his family have any idea of his spiritual status. There are very few adepts, those between the 3rd and 6th plane, in Europe. There is only one of the 7th plane. He is one of the 56 God-conscious souls on earth. There is also one person of the 6th plane in Europe. These adepts are still nothing compared to my circle members. Those of my circle will all be of the 7th plane. They have all been doing my dictates for ages. These last 4 days, I was working universally and speedily, laying the foundation of my work in Europe next November. And at 2 o'clock this morning, it was completed. Now the sun is out. And for all that, these last 4 days of trouble and dreariness. Yet still I feel sad. Why? How can I be happy when I see myself bound in millions of unrealized souls? Not until the last drop is realized will I be happy. The scenery was magnificent, and enjoying the view, Baba compared it to Kashmir. They reached the 5,600-foot snow-covered mountain, top of Mount Generoso by funicular, and the lover's love obliged the sun to come out at last. Baba was very happy and playful and threw snowballs at everyone. Afterwards, they ate a lunch they had packed of radishes, cheese, and potato chips at a few outside tables of the Hotel Schweizerhof on the summit. In a good mood, Baba gave some more explanations of the inner spiritual planes to the group, and later they played ping pong inside the inn. They hiked around the nearby hills and spent a wonderful excursion with Baba, which he too enjoyed. Refreshed by the outing, the group returned to Lugano in the evening. But the next day, 4 May 1932, was not a happy one for they received word that Baba's father had died on 30 April at the age of 79. Ramju had sent a cable to London on the 1st saying, Father Shariarji expired Bombay last night, and Quinton forwarded the message to Lugano. Previously, during the middle of the night on 30 April, Baba had suddenly clapped and called Adi Sr. Baba pointed to his chin and threw his hands upward, but Adi could not follow Baba's gestures, and Baba had sent him away. Only after the news arrived did Adi realize what Baba was gesturing that night. Pointing to his chin had signified a beard, Baba's gesture for an old man. Baba consoled his brothers, Behram and Adi Jr., and explained to them about death. Death is necessary and is like sleep. When a person awakes from sleep, he finds himself as he was. However, after death, a person finds himself in a different atmosphere and in a different body. Both death and birth are dreams. Where is the sense in being merry or miserable for the sake of a dream? Bobo's death, however, is not sleep. He has gone beyond it, and is awake forever. He is emancipated and has gained mukti, liberation. Memo was cabled. Father Shariarji is near me. Don't worry. Mind your health. Should I send Adi? Wire immediately. Baba. At the time of their father's demise, Adi Jr. and Behram were with Baba, and Jalbai was with the other Mandali in China. Memo and Mani had been with Bobo in Bombay, where he had been admitted to a hospital, but he sent them back to Pune just a day or so before he died. Now Shariarji was with his beloved son forever. Bobo received his divine reward for the life of a dervish, and his ascetic austerities were finished forever. Okay, we have time for one more reader, please.
Ralph, are you reading today? Marilyn, would you like to read today?
Where are we?
Yeah.
Right at the top.
Okay. Shariaji's body was taken to the Tower of Silence in Bombay.
Let me read the footnote. A joint memorial to Shariarji and Shireen Mai was later erected on Mehrabad Hill near Meher Baba's tomb.
Dear Marilyn, can you read it a little louder if that's okay? Thank you.
Sure. A joint memorial to Shariarji and Shireen Mai was later erected on Mehrabad Hill near Meher Baba's tomb. Go ahead.
Baba's childhood friend Bailey had been helping Memo look after Bobo in Pune. He related, during Shariarji's last illness, Mataji Shireen did not have much faith in the doctors at Pune, and therefore it was arranged to have him shifted to a hospital in Bombay. On the day Shariarji was taken to Bombay, I lifted him from his bed like a flower, carried him down the steps of his house, and made him lie down, excuse me, in a waiting car. Excuse me. And in the same manner, at the train station, I lifted him from the car to a stretcher, which was carried by coolies to a train compartment. I laid him carefully over a mattress that was spread there. At that time, taking both my hands in his warm hands and pressing them lightly, Shariarji apologized for all the trouble I had taken for him. Then, after thanking me for all the service I had rendered, he said, I am not hopeful of seeing you again. I am getting myself admitted in the hospital at Bombay only to surrender to death. Convey to Baba that I remembered him. Also convey my love and salutations to him. You too accept my last salutations and always stick to Baba, with politeness and respect. He is the only one to help and benefit you. You have my blessings for that. As Bailey relates, Baba's father had always been aware of the high state his son had achieved. Years before, Shariarji had started referring to Baba as Khuda Rashida, a Farsi phrase that means one who has reached God. Therefore, in all his correspondence with Baba, he would begin by writing on the top of the page, Khuda Rashida Farzan, which means God realized son. On one occasion, Shariarji, emptying his heart to me, said, what I had tried to gain spiritually through so much hardship, Marwan has already gained. From my early childhood till I got married, I spent my life with the sole aim of realizing God. For that, I have suffered a lot and got a lot of experiences, but I could not achieve that single goal of mine. And that is because it was not in my destiny, but it was destined to my child. I sowed the seed, but the fruit was reaped by my son, and this is my great happiness. Being a family man, this joy is no ordinary thing for me. My mukti will be obtained at the hands of my Khuda Rashida Farzan. Through him, we, his parents, will become one with God and reach the ultimate goal. For me now, my death too will give eternal peace, and I am only awaiting that. You want me to continue?
Yeah, sure. Read another page.
Okay. I'm starting at the top here. Age.
Yeah.
How do you say that? AGE.
Age.
Age. It sounds funny for name. Age. Saluted the father of the ancient one. Dear Shariarji, the world will remember you always and learn a lesson from your life of renunciation. By leaving Persia and migrating to India, listening to the divine voice and being the earthly father of the avatar, your life of Fakiri gained everything. You attained that which you were restless throughout your life. Yezdan, Yezdan, Yezdan. Oh, deepest salutations to you, Shariarji. You have won. You gained salutation and acquired all.
Salvation.
That's what I said. Salvation and acquired all. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The fragrant flower of our love is at your feet. A letter from Bua Saheb in Nasik was also Nasik was also received in Lugano, indicating that he intended to return to Persia. Baba had Herbert cabled in China, instructing him to send Vishnu and Rao Saheb back to Nasik to help run the Circle Cinema and Sarosh Motor Works, as Rustum too was in China. Baba also asked Adi Sr. to return to Nasik from London instead of proceeding with him to America. That evening, all went to a concert of Spanish music. Baba enjoyed the music and accompanying dancers. At 1:30 in the afternoon of Thursday, 5 May 1932, they went by bus on another outing to the village of Cadamario, where they played games. Baba was in a good mood, but back at their hotel, he took very little supper, complaining of a constant pain in his stomach and a feeling of nausea. Adi Sr. and Kaka went to the market to buy a bottle of sarsaparilla to help his digestion. Whenever the master was in his room resting, any noise whatsoever was forbidden. From the very beginning, when Meher Baba established himself as a spiritual master and gathered disciples, a watchman would always be at Baba's side at night to see that there was not the slightest disturbance. Bailey, Arjun, and Masaji had this duty in India at first, and thereafter Chagan was the night watchman. During Baba's many journeys, any of the Mandali would be appointed as night watchman, and this duty was now being done by Kaka. Some of Baba's Western followers may have been wondering whether or not the master slept at all at night.
Do we want to stop here?
Yeah, we could. Thank you.
It's a good spot. Okay.